What's up guys, it's National Master Dem Apples here, back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of Hikaru Nakamura's greatest games. This game was played online. It was a 3-minute blitz game, played in 2008. So let's take a look at it. His opponent is not a human, by the way, it's a computer. Keep in mind that engines back then were much weaker than they are now. So let's take a look. Pawn to g4. Now, okay, looks can be deceiving. This is a terrible opening. I believe the engine was programmed to play this as its first move, or else it would never have played this willingly itself. But we do have to realize that, yes, computers at this time are very strong and would not play this normally. So we have pawn to d5, very logical move by Hikaru, attacking the pawn. h3, h5, g5, and g6. Now you might notice, okay, this is kind of like very strange style of play by Hikaru. By the way, the engine does not take here because this will just be a permanent weakness. I mean, black has lots of moves he can take. He can develop the knight to then take. He can move his pawn to e5, getting a big center. So he knows that the computer is going to do this, and goes g6. This is a very strange move, but it's not so strange if you know what Hikaru is going for. After a few more moves, it becomes more apparent. So we see Hikaru building up a very solid structure, basing his structure around light squares while maintaining his powerful dark squared bishop. And we're going to get kind of like a modern, kind of like a hippo-ish structure. So knight f3, bishop f5, knight h4, and e6. Hikaru gets his bishop out of the pawn chain. He's perfectly fine with losing the bishop for the knight in this case, because he has so many pawns on light squares. They complement the dark squared bishop very well, so he doesn't really need the light squared bishop. So knight takes f5, e takes f5, Hikaru now has doubled pawns. But as you will note, right, this entire side of the board is locked up. Bishop to f4, knight e7, e3, castles, queen d2, knight d7. Hikaru is just developing like normal, but it's also good to notice that Hikaru has the knights, right, and a locked position benefits the person with the knight. So Hikaru is probably going to try to reroute his knight from f8 to e6, where it's pretty strong, pressures the bishop on f4 as well as this pawn, and reinforces a possible pawn to c5 break. So let's see what happens. Oh wow, would you look at that? I'm so smart. Okay, knight f8 is played, bishop e5, trying to trade off the strong bishop, and, well, Hikaru just goes knight e6. He doesn't care, right? f4. And you notice something about this, right? This entire side of the board is, well, rather locked up, as we can see, right? There is not much going on here, and there's not much either side can do. You could say, oh, maybe they can sacrifice, but sacrificing anything by anybody in this kind of position is just a death wish. You don't want to give away a free piece for nothing. That's just, like, a general rule in chess. So knight to c8, a very good instructive move, by the way. Going backward to go forward, right? The knight on e7 doesn't really have any... I mean, the knight on e6 is good, right? But the knight on e7 isn't really doing too much. It's all just, like, running into its own pawns. Knight c8 is a really good move, aiming to reroute the knight to d6 or b6, where it can go into c4 or e4, which are much better squares. Now king to b1, knight d6, bishop f1, queen d7. Hikaru is playing it slow. In closed positions, you can play pretty slowly. a4, b6. Now, by the way, b6 does not make a lot of sense. But it does make sense if you know what Hikaru is going for. So you might be wondering, like, why I keep hinting to this. Well, back then, in this year, 2008, the year I was born, these chess engines had a common vulnerability. And what this vulnerability was that they always wanted to win, right? Even if it's a dead equal, locked up position, they still want to win. This is what Hikaru did. He intentionally locked up the position. Now, would Hikaru beat someone, like a normal person, in this position? Hell yes, this is a very good position for black. He has the knights, which are good in closed positions, and he has pawns on light squares, which is very instructive. It's just completely rendering white's light squared bishop useless. So, yes, black has a pretty good position here, and can probably expand on the queen side to attack white. Meanwhile, white has no prospects of attacking black. This side of the board is completely locked up. So, because engines would push for the win all the time, right, even if it was equal, they would often try to, like, there's this rule in chess called the 50 move rule. If you make 50 moves without any captures, I believe, or pawn moves, right, then the game is a draw. So the engines are going to avoid this, and they will do this at all costs, even giving up material for no reason. This is what Hikaru is trying to do. He's trying to lock up the position, make sure that there are no more pawn moves, right? That's what locking up the position is. And once he does that, the engine will go crazy and start giving up material. Let's see what happens. b6, right? Bishop a6, knight c7, kicking the bishop out. Bishop here, a6. Notice how Hikaru is placing his pawns like this, as to be like, well, if white ever makes a pawn break, I'm just going to push, and boom, you've locked up the position more. Bishop d3, b5, he's trying to lock up the position, but he knows that a capture will benefit him greatly, right? Because now he has the rook open, and he doesn't even need to abuse this vulnerability to beat the engine. Again, the engines aren't too good at this time. He's just going to double rooks on the a file, start attacking his opponent, and yeah, what could go wrong, right? So h4, again, he's baited his opponent into locking up the side of the board forever. Knight e6, and you notice Hikaru is just shuffling. He really doesn't care. This is a 3-minute game, right? No increment, 3-0. So, yeah, he's got to move quick. He's basically pre-moving all these moves. And so, as you can see, the engine finally locks up the position. And this is exactly what Hikaru wants, right? He's just shuffling. An exchange does occur. This is not exactly noteworthy. Queen b7. And yeah, Hikaru is just shuffling. I am just skipping past these moves because they really don't make any sense. They don't really matter at all. Neither side can improve this position, and this is a dead draw. Until we wait for 50 moves. And you notice Hikaru did get forked. He does not care, right? Because white's knight is his best piece, honestly. And if, well, white gets rid of his best piece, you know, in these kinds of positions, when you sack an exchange or you lose a couple rooks for a queen or something, the number one question that's, okay, I think Sam Shanklin said this, but the question is, how good are the rooks, right, if you're going to give up a rook for something? And the answer is, well, not good. There are 8 pawns on the board for both sides, and the rooks are completely dead. So in this position, black's knight is even better. Like, it can probably jump to e4 or c4. Black's the only one who can do anything here. He's calling the shots. So, right now, black is not calling the shots. He's just shuffling. Because he knows that in 50 moves, the opponent will do something stupid. I don't know. So he just keeps shuffling. This is a very, very long game, by the way. 271 moves. And you notice, Hikaru gives up his rook again. Now, why he did this, I'm not sure. There's, like, literally no reason to do this. But he does so and maintains this very locked structure, right? If he puts his knight on f5, there is literally nothing his opponent can do. So, knight on f5, Rybka is up 4 points of material, but we just keep shuffling. You notice a queen exchange does occur, but this does not change anything about the position, right? And it just resets the 50 move rule, right? Every time there's a capture, the 50 move rule gets reset. So, rook h3, and you notice Hikaru is just shuffling his pieces. This is why Hikaru is known as such a troll, and for the end of this game. So, eventually, the computer will have to give up material somehow, and it's probably going to come in the form of a pawn sacrifice. This does not open up the position, however. Hikaru is just going to take and blockade again. So let's see what happens. Oh, would you look at that? Did I predict the future? Yes. And Hikaru just took, right? And white still can't get into the position, which is really important. You might say, oh, he can get in through some sort of sacrifice. Yeah, no one cares. This is a terrible move, because after c takes d5, you are never getting in. And black is completely winning here. He has d4, bishop f4, and here, again, still, the question is, how good are the rooks? The answer is still a resounding not good. So, yeah, this is not something black is afraid of. And Hikaru is just blockading again. You notice he put his knight on d5, king on f5, and now, you know, there's no worries in the world for black. Now, could Hikaru have won earlier? Well, yes, he could have just, like, marched his king in and taken this pawn. But why do that? Why do that when you can troll? And Hikaru is the biggest troll on the internet and one of the greatest players ever. So, bishop e7. He could have taken this pawn, too, like 20 moves ago. He chose not to. Okay, now he takes all the pawns. And now the harsh reality is coming to Rybka. It's given up all its pawns in order to avoid the 50-move rule, and is now getting punished. This avalanche of pawns is going to keep going forever, and nothing the rooks can do to stop it. So bishop a5, bishop b4, bishop d6, and the pawns keep rolling, right? And this one of the most impressive things about this 270 move game is that, yes, Hikaru is playing a 3-minute chess game. Can you believe that? That's crazy to me. Rook c2. I mean, it looks like a silly move, right? But there's really no way to stop the pawns. If you let black cook, I mean, he's just gonna go knight b4, probably a2 and b2 check. So, yeah, he gives it up, and Hikaru doesn't even take. Just defends his pawn, takes the rook finally, takes another pawn, right? Because if rook takes, he's going to promote his pawn, and yeah, nothing to do. Hikaru's just taking all the pawns, and now you might be wondering, why is Hikaru taking all the pawns? He doesn't need to take all the pawns. He can just promote to a queen, get white to take, and then he's going to, like, let's say, the simplest way to win, right, is to just, like, move your knight somewhere and then promote your pawn, right? But Hikaru is taking all the pawns. Why? Well, you'll see what Hikaru's master plan is. Like, why is he pushing the pawns? Why does he care about the pawns? Well, as you can see, his intention is not to checkmate. It's to troll, and he promotes to all bishops. Just kidding. He promotes to a knight, but he gives up his knight on purpose, right? So he can get 6 bishops. Wow. And from here on out, it's just kind of funny. Hikaru gives up a bishop for absolutely no reason, but as you can see, his massive wad of bishops is just slowly checkmating white. I don't know what Hikaru is doing. He's not even, like, controlling the king in any manner. He's just moving his bishops around, and this is just so funny. I mean, yeah, and he's just slowly moving his wad of bishops, and they are going to checkmate. I mean, when you have so many bishops on the board, it's easy to stalemate, right? But he wants to arrange his bishops in a satisfying manner, and does so with bishop c6 checkmate. Just showing you how big of a troll Hikaru is, but also engines have come such a long way, right? When they know the position is a draw, they will draw you, okay? They'll be fine with the 50 move rule if everything else is worse. And yeah, Hikaru, I mean, played a great game, and honestly, engines are much better than Ribka now. But this was still an interesting game for the history books. Yeah, just to show how engines have improved and evolved over time. So, I hope you enjoyed watching this game. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and if you didn't, you should like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.